welcome to SGT Times Explainer. I am Ankita. Today we'll talk about why European elections matter, who can vote, the main political groups, and what it means for India. The European Union, a 27-country union, will hold elections for members of the European Parliament from June 6 to 9. The next European Parliament, which serves as a direct link between Europeans and EU institutions, will be elected by about 400 million eligible voters. How important is the European Parliament? The EU Parliament creates laws and policies by modifying and approving legislation and deciding on international treaties. It must approve the EU's yearly budget and has the authority to request legislative proposals from the Commission. MEPs supervise the activities of the Commission and Council, the EU's executive branch. They share responsibility with the Council for enacting legislation proposed by the Commission. According to sources, the most MEPs sit in political groupings spanning from left to right rather than by nationality, requiring them to balance allegiances to a party or country. According to the EU website, MEPs focus on key political, economic and social issues while upholding European Union ideals such as respect for human rights, freedom, democracy, equality and the rule of law. How will voting begin? Voting begins in the Netherlands on June 6, followed by Ireland and Malta the next day. Then Latvia and Slovakia on Saturday. Many EU members states will vote on June 9. The majority of voting occurs on a single day, except for the Czech Republic, while votes on Friday and Saturday and Italy on Saturday and Sunday. Belgians will vote in national and regional elections on Sunday, in addition to the European elections. Most European nations have a voting age of 18. However, Germany, Austria, Belgium and Malta allow 16-year-olds to vote, while Greece has a minimum age of 17. The average turnout in 2019 was 50.7%. Prior to exiting the EU, the United Kingdom participated in the most recent European elections. Some of its seats have been reassigned or held in reserve in case the EU expands. How many MEPs are elected? There will be 720 MEPs elected in June 15, more than in previous elections. Typically, the number of MEPs is determined before each election. The total cannot exceed 750, including the President. What are the major political groups? The largest groups are the Centre-Right European People's Party and the Centre-Left Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats. Other groupings include Liberal Renew Europe and the Green European Free Alliance, which were the largest in the last parliament. They are the European Conservatives and Reformists and the Identity and Democracy factions. The new MEPs will first choose the President of the European Commission. Ursula von der Leyen, the incumbent president, is seeking re-election. The EU's 27 heads of state or government, known as the European Council, will consider elections results before nominating a candidate, whose name will then be given to the parliament. More than half of the MEPs will need to approve the nominee. The EU's national leaders chose von der Leyen 5 years ago, although she was not a contender. Why is the EU important for India? The new European Parliament will set policy on climate change, migration, nationalism, trade, and other international concerns during the next 5 years. India and the EU share worries about a variety of issues, including the pandemic, climate change, economic security, trade, and digitization. While merchandise exports from the EU have climbed from $12.6 billion in 2000 to $46.3 billion in 2021. The growth rate is insufficient to considerably diversify the EU's economic contacts, according to Observer Research Foundation. Most EU service exports to India have increased in both absolute and relative terms. EU imports from India more than quadrupled in the 2000s, but only gradually climbed from $44 billion to $54 billion between 2010 and 2019. Since 2010, India's percentage of the EU's import basket has remained flat, while China's share has increased. According to the ORF, India's telecoms and IT services imports have already surpassed those of China. The EU unveiled its EU-India Strategic Partnership, a roadmap to 2025 in 2020, which has now been postponed until early 2025. This would establish a 5-year strategy for EU-India relations and address the common worry about increasing Chinese dominance. Diplomatically, relations between India and the EU are improving against the backdrop of the 2022 Ukraine conflict. Many Europeans were irritated by India's long-standing ties with Russia. However, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar argued that Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems, and chastised Europeans for their double standards in foreign policy. According to an essay published by the European Council on Foreign Affairs Relations, shared concerns about China provide a more viable foundation for resuming the EU-India discussion. That brings us to the end of today's SGT Times Explainer. Thanks for watching.